I was reading the other day about the extent of the activities of one billionaire, Robert Mercer, in the past election and how much the election of Donald Trump is really due to his donations and influence. And before he took on Trump as his candidate, he was very pro Ted Cruz, really the only other candidate who significantly charted in the GOP primaries. Why did they do so well? Why are these donations so important? Of course, the influence of billionaires in politics is very one-sided. It's a big issue in general, but that's only really one small part of the issue, that you have very wealthy people over-influencing elections. Because Robert Mercer in particular isn't just a Wall Street billionaire. He's part of Renaissance Technologies, which is a hedge fund made up of IBM computer scientists. It's made up of mathematicians, analytics, and algorithm experts. And they've just been killing it in Wall Street and on the market for the past 28 years. Basically, their fund, which is just based on the math and the tracking of data and the vast accumulation of data, has outperformed just about every other hedge fund, especially a money market type of thing where you blindly put in an investment and it's diversified into a basket. Renaissance Technologies has the best performing any of these. It's a black box for money. And the only investors they allow are actual employees of their business and former employees and a handful of people they let in. It's closed off to the public, and they have their own special fund known as Medallion that has gotten 35% returns over the past several decades, which is just way ahead of anything else you can invest in. And so it's crazy. They've just accumulated huge fortunes for all these basically genius math people, or at least people who are very intelligent. And ironically or not, it's one of those funding the left and funding the right situations, because you've got the founder of this firm, James Simons, and you've got Robert Mercer, who's been in the news lately, both of them bankrolling opposite candidates. James Simons, who retired and made Robert Mercer the co-CEO of Renaissance Technologies, and who handpicked him and brought him into the company, he funds Hillary Clinton. And Robert Mercer funds Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. So it's a left and right false paradigm. And both of them, they're not just giving them their money. More importantly, they're giving them data analytics.
I mean, there's a reason Bannon said that Breitbart's comment sections are so useful, for them being the fourth largest comment sections on the web, because they're continuously getting feedback from everyone, analyzing it, and then what they do with that is they put those targeted groups of people into feedback loops, echo chambers, with their own comments. That's how they build political candidates now. That's how Trump knows just what to say every time he does anything. They go to this data, they analyze it, and then they give him the talking points just like they did for Obama. This is how the internet is working. And they're running society like this. And they've got the left secured with that, and they got the right secured with that, and they just...
The idea that you've got two billionaires who are really united and, from what I understand, really good friends, or at least important business partners, funding just the spectrum, funding the opposites of the choices that we, the voters, get. It's a fraud, right? At some point, 1 + 1 does not equal 2 with that kind of math. It's some other scale where this is not politics and this is not elections, not when you figure it this way. And again, the influence of just having a lot of money is only a part of it. It's only the beginning. And for Robert Mercer's part, with the chump change in his pocket, he's become officially the #1 political donor in the last cycle, big backer of 2 candidates. But his offering, more than money, is his data firm. He's involved in Cambridge Analytica, which actually is a spinoff from the British group SCL Strategic Communications Laboratory. And the kind of data mining they're doing is pretty much just bigger than money. You couldn't buy the stuff they're doing with data. And again, they're funding all sides of this. It just depends on who hires the firm. And they do it with what they themselves claim is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 data points on every individual. They claim they've modeled the personality of every adult in the United States, 230 million people. And SCL, the mothership group, they do work in any number of countries. They're involved in politics in many countries. They do what they call behavioral micro-targeting, which I think is pretty clear what that would mean. And they do psychographic analysis, where they basically compile activity and information about you with demographic things. And they put together a micro-shot personality assessment for everyone in their pool. I mean, it reminds me of a detective story, Columbo or Sherlock Holmes or whoever. And the whole story, the whole chapter, the whole episode is about trying to look at the details and figure out what makes the person tick. Now, remind me, you did say no one else ever does use this phone, right? Oh, yes, of course. And it's a private office. Yes. And this clock was manufactured in Russia, one of a kind. But then you do realize that clock was heard on the recording at the exact time you said you were at. And then he gets the pleasure of watching them realize they've given themselves away. But with this kind of database, it doesn't take a whole episode, a whole story to get to that point. They start from that point. You see, they start with the conclusion, and they work backwards to set the conditions they want. They put together a micro-shot personality assessment for everyone in their pool, and then they model that on a bigger scale. Then they feed back to you personalized ads that are based on things you've done, supported, said, basically trends they've seen you latching onto, and they feed those trends back to you. And in a political context, you're talking about, you've always had the issue of politicians telling you what you want to hear, but now they can do so with great precision, and it could be different from individual to individual. They could be telling everyone completely different things. And will it matter once they're elected what they're really standing for? And it's quite obviously beyond just politics. They have admittedly been collecting credit card data and Facebook data from everyone. You fill out forms, you turn in information when you buy something, and where does it really go? Somebody like Cambridge Analytica gets that data, and they compile it into the model. They take your supermarket purchase history and they match it against the things you said on social media, and they match it against your credit card history, which is just really creepy by itself and seems like no one anywhere near politics should have your credit card history, but it's all there. Somewhere it's all in that model. But by the time they get it perfected, if it's not already perfected, it's just going to be an unstoppable monster. I mean, their ability to look at data in a quantum artificial intelligence manner is probably going to outpace human thinking very quickly.
It really confused me at first why all of a sudden last year you had all kinds of mainstream media outlets feeding and pushing the point that we are living in a matrix. And you even had banks, like Bank of America analysts, saying there's 50% chance we definitely live in a matrix, because they know they're doing this, which essentially puts us into a matrix they are controlling. If you have all the data and all the information, you have all the power. Used to be it was the oil, he who controls the oil, or he who controls the food. Now it's he who controls the information. It's all about the information. There's a reason they call it the Central Intelligence Agency. I mean, these agencies, the NSA, the CIA, they're running quantum computers and what they call sentient world simulations in real time. What that means is they are using the World Wide Web, and there's a reason they call it a web, to suck up data from all of us all the time, continuously analyzing
They've
it.
tried to say that the SCL group, they've been very sloppy and they're amateurish. They've overstated what their data can do. I don't know. It's pretty creepy. In their own words, they've been involved in political subterfuge, and I mean, this firm considers itself a global election management agency, and they admittedly are trying to change people's behavior with the kind of data they feed back to them. So they collect everything about you, and then they kind of regurgitate it into a model and tell you a version of things that you've done or indicated you like or care about, your values or whatever. In the third world, they basically have been doing psyops. This is a data company who's doing work for military disinformation campaigns, literally, but also social media. They talked about in this article how they did a campaign for Latvia because they wanted to oppose Russia. So they told Latvian voters that Russia was the reason that they had an economic depression and lots of unemployment, and they were feeding this to people based on information they had about them. And I guess for whatever reason it didn't end up making a difference in the election, and supposedly they didn't do the things, but it's the concept here. It says they did a campaign in Trinidad, Caribbean island. What are they all about? And what does a data firm know about them? Well, they collected data on their culture and what the people in that culture would actually basically respect and listen to, and they ended up doing a street graffiti campaign. So you've got billionaires from Wall Street and the city of London and these guys in suits basically posing as graffiti artists, and they would put the slogans on the walls because that's what they figured out people would believe in this country and other countries. And these are also the people who did Brexit. And I guess, Brexit and Trump and a certain brand of alt-right conservative politics is what Robert Mercer's all about, or what he's told us he's all about. I don't know for sure what he really believes. I'm not even sure it matters what he believes. But he's been just driving this stuff through his money and through his analytics campaign, and it's just really changing what politics is all about and what our society is all about. They've done consumer spending models, and they've figured out what the trendy things are that millennials are doing. Where are millennials shopping? What brands are the brands? And yeah, they've always been doing that kind of stuff, but it's at the point, again, where they have 4,000 to 5,000 pieces of data about every person. Think about every time you clicked like on Facebook, every time you put your credit card information in somewhere, anytime you fill out a survey, lots of purchases, things you've advertised about yourself, things you might believe in, values you might have, anywhere on any social media platform, Twitter, whatever. They've collected that stuff, and they know more about you potentially than you know about yourself. You're talking about a black box investment firm that's just a money-making machine. Again, because they collect so much data and because they know so much about consumer trends and spending patterns and basically where the money goes and where it comes from and who it is that's spending money and for what reason. And it's all in a secretive black box. No one else could see it. Of course, it's proprietary. All right. And when they've applied this to politics, which they have, what you get out is this reverso picture of what the population wants to hear. And so no wonder no candidate is ever truthful. You can't have any candidate who's not disingenuous, because it would be political suicide not to regurgitate the points that people want to hear. But then, where do you ever have anything that's remotely authentic when all you're ever getting is feedback about yourself or your group or the people that you identify with? So it's like a game or a movie where you're fighting against a shadow version of yourself. How do you beat that enemy? They have all the same strengths and they know your weaknesses already, so their weaknesses are offset by knowing your weaknesses. It gets real creepy. So society's going to be driven by a shadow image of itself. I mean, some weird computer AI black box is now pretty much becoming the driving force of our society. You're going to tell me we're not going to be pets? How can we even be authentic to ourselves when this is what comes back from what we put out? I think it's a real strange paradox, and most of us don't even know about this, and yeah, it applies to politics and certain candidates, but that's just the beginning. Just the beginning. They're running everything that's happening in society parallel, and they've got a little dot in their matrix for everybody. This is a game society. They know where it's been, they know where it's going, and they know where it's going because they're steering people into the direction it wants to go. And so people are angry at the system, and the alternative they're going to feed us, or are feeding us, or will feed us. God help us if it'll ever be authentic. Will we ever have a real alternative again? I don't know. If this thing is in charge, everything we're going to get is going to be an ersatz imitation of what the real thing is, that's going to be steered and controlled by this money and data machine. I hope somebody can think their way out of that. I don't know.
They have already, it's like playing a game of chess, okay, with a supercomputer, basically. They have put us all in a box, and they are using game theory and real-time data analysis to feed back to everyone what they want to hear. So they've always got an excuse for everything that at least works for one group, while alternately pissing off the opposite group and keeping those two groups fighting amongst themselves with each other. And that's what they've done now with the internet. They are putting everyone in an echo chamber, and they're telling them what they want to hear or need to hear to justify what they're doing. They have already worked out the entire game board, 17 moves ahead. They have figured out every angle, and then they're just feedback looping everyone in echo chambers, digital echo chambers. That's what the internet is being used for now. All the social media, all the data that's being sucked up in the political arena. So every time anything happens, one side will get pissed about it because they'll be told their version of what they need to hear, and the other side will go, yeah, exactly, he should do that because whatever, and they'll tell them what they want to hear. Because that's what this is being used to do to everyone. And they are going to run society with artificial intelligence this way. That's what's going on. Nobody wants to hear that, though. No one wants to hear that because everybody really likes their little digital gadgets and they really love all the social media, and we have to use it to do what we try to do here. We're working within the system the only way we know how to use it in a positive way, but ultimately, this is what it's being used for. It's being used for sentient world simulations and putting everyone onto feedback loops. That's really all there is to it, Unless we were there, in an era of fake news, people have to realize unless you were there, you actually don't know what was going on at all. We're playing a giant game of digital telephone in the world right now. That's it. Somebody told someone else, there were witnesses there, they saw it, so they know, and it's going to be, and then by the time it gets back to us, who the hell knows what really happened? It's a digital mind game. It's game theory, and it's working. Whatever they needed to learn from Jade Helm, they learned it, and they're using it now.